All right, we're live.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is 7 p.m. on Tuesday, April 9th, 2024, and I now call to order the 2135th regular meeting of the City of College Place City Council. Sherry, would you please take roll call?
Mayor Hernandez,
Present.
Councilmember Jessup,
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland,
Present.
Councilmember Espinoza,
Present.
Councilmember Peterson,
Present.
Councilmember Williams,
Present.
Councilmember Sherman,
Present.
and Councilmember Boyle.
Present.
All right, we do have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. It's time for public comment. Sherry, did anyone submit a comment in advance?
I did not receive any comments.
Okay, do we have anyone in virtual attendance?
We have one attendee.
Okay, if the attendee that's here virtually, if you'd like to speak during public comment, please raise your hand now. And *9 is used to raise your hand if you're connected by phone. All right, seeing none. If there's anyone in council chambers that would like to make a public comment, please raise your hands or step forward to the podium. All right, there are none, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda, which consists of tonight's agenda for April 9th, 2024, the council meeting minutes from March 12th, 2024, the council workshop minutes from April 2nd, 2024, and the December financials. Are there any items any council member would like removed from the consent agenda at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Great. We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams, we didn't hear your vote.
Sorry, aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is passed. We'll move on to our presentations, which there are 3 of them on tonight's agenda. The first one is Gunnarsson Consulting regarding cell site and lease consulting services, and Ms. Colwell will present on that.
Thank you, Mayor. I am going to just turn it right over to them, the consultants. We basically made a decision to reach out to see if there was someone who could help us administer and negotiate leases for the cell tower, the telecommunications companies. With the switch to 5G, they are wanting to renegotiate the lease and different options for us. So I think that it is something the council should consider.
Okay, real quick question.
Mhm.
What tower are we talking about?
The water tower.
The water tower. Okay, thank
That's
you.
correct.
So would that make me up then?
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And with how we like to present, usually we like to make sure that we have some information we can throw out. But if there's any questions, because this is such a diverse industry with a lot of nuances, please feel free to either interrupt or let me know that you have a question. In looking at the information for consideration that was presented, there are a lot of pieces that the city's facing that are very similar to what we deal with on a daily basis. And I believe one of the key points is that we do deal with these on a daily basis. What we find with our municipal customers is that they are very, very busy taking care of city business. However, the cellular industry has a way of taking up a lot of time, especially if you don't have someone on staff that is very well versed in the industry. So just taking a couple of the key points that are here, the city is receiving numerous requests right now for 5G related infrastructure changes. However, not all of the requests are actually from the wireless carriers. one of the key benefits that we're able to take a look at is, are these requests critical to the infrastructure? Are they actually requests from tenants? And can they be mitigated or eliminated very quickly? That brings a cost savings and a time savings to city personnel. One of the things that's listed on here are with the relocation of the tower, there are requests to either terminate the lease, remove all equipment, pay significantly less to stay on the space, or purchase a permanent easement. And this is a request that we deal with on probably a weekly basis multiple times because of the different players in the industry. We're able to take these requests and quickly understand what they mean, and then be able to make a recommendation to staff that can either be beneficial financially or mitigate the time that is required. A couple of points that I did want to make, and then we can go into any questions or go through the experience that we have, are Gunnarsson Consulting. We've been in the industry for decades. What that allows us to have done is go through multiple consolidation cycles, multiple growth cycles, understand decommissioning, modifications, new builds, all of the different pieces of the industry from a full life cycle point of view. That brings us to not only a monetary review of what happens with these sites, but also the infrastructure and liability review and how that can affect the city. A specific example of what that may look like is one of our city customers has a water tank that has been basically managed or self-managed by the wireless carriers for a number of years. After about 15 years of them being in existence on the tower, one of the wireless carriers sent a letter to the city asking them to fix some items. The laundry list that grew into became a $500,000 laundry list. And it could have been mitigated over the course of time by simply making the wireless carriers maintain the infrastructure they were on. So what we find in this is leasing revenue is important, but more important is making sure that these don't become a liability to the city or to the landlord. The other piece that we do is, because we're in this industry and we deal with it daily, we maintain multiple databases. Those databases include locations of the wireless carriers, as well as the financial implications or the revenue generated from those leases, giving us access to information that's not available anywhere else. And what that helps our customers understand is, are they getting the right revenue? Are they getting the right lease terms? And is this a long-term asset that generates revenue from the city, or does it have the potential to become a liability? Pausing there for just a second, are there any questions?
Any questions from council members at this time? No, there's none. Thank you.
Okay. So the customers that we deal with across the country, and we're in every state in the country. We also go into Canada and we do some work internationally. We only work for property owners, which would include municipalities, investors, property managers. We do not do business with the wireless carriers, or not on their behalf. We want to make sure that we do not have any conflicts of interest in anything that we're doing. So we do business with housing authorities. We do business with cities, water tanks. Water tanks specifically do present some individual challenges, simply because the wireless carriers are not necessarily going to look at the best practices when installing equipment. And we have the experience to go through and make sure that they're installed appropriately, make sure that the loading's taken care of, make sure the structural analyses are done. And we do have experience actually with the companies doing the structural analyses on the College Place water tank. Morris Hirschfield, I believe, is one of the ones that has recently done a structural analysis there. So what our goal is to come in, be available when your staff needs us, efficiently take care of the work, and then get out of your way when we're not needed. That's essentially our entire structure and what we do with customers across the country. Any questions?
Any questions at this time? Nope, there's none.
Okay. Are there any pieces or anything that you would like to see on our work as far as experience, photos, different details?
I think the packet that was included in our board, the information that was included in our board packet provides all that information. And I think many of us have, if not all, have had time to already review that.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Actually, I do have one quick question. In the compensation, it says that there's two potential, am I reading this right? Two potential ways of compensation, which is an hourly or a negotiation fee. Is that correct?
Correct in that they tie together. So we bill mostly on an hourly basis. The work that we perform is on an hourly basis. We bill monthly. There are two success-based components that are additive to that. And the way those work are if we increase the revenue, either in an annual basis or at a one-time fee, we receive a one-time portion of the increase only. So we're working on aligning our interests with the city, making sure that we're working towards a benefit financially with those pieces. And I can go into scenarios of how that works if needed, but I also don't want to bore you if it's unneeded or unnecessary.
Any council members need any information on that? Okay, yes, we would like to hear a scenario, please.
Okay, perfect. So let's just use simple numbers so we don't have to break out calculators, and that's for my benefit, not yours, I'm sure. But we have a lot of customers where we'll go in, we'll look at a lease and say, and understand that it's below market. And market is determined not necessarily just by the location, as everyone knows the real estate adage, location, location, location. In RF or radio frequency, it's the location as it relates to the overall network. So we'll look at, when we come in, we'll look at different pieces of it. We'll look at, is it what the revenue is currently? Is this like a small cell site? Is it a macro site? And then we'll look at, is the rent supported by what the area can generate? And is there room to move it up? And let's say that you're currently getting $10,000 a year for a site, and most of your sites are paying more than that. But if we were to take that $10,000 a year site and increase it to $15,000 a year, we would receive a one-time payment of the increase, or $5,000. On another note, sometimes we'll look at sites and find out that they haven't been paying something, or we'll receive signing bonuses, or frequently we'll find that utilities have not been paid. We actually just had a recovery in one of our customers for a sizable amount because utilities had not been paid for 20 years probably. And so in those instances, just again, using simple math, let's say we come in and we find a $10,000 one-time payment that has not been paid, we receive 20% of that. So in the $10,000 scenario, it would be a $2,000 amount. Does that make sense?
It does. Council members, any questions, clarifications of that?
What is your hourly fee in addition to that?
It is $250 an hour.
Councilmember Peterson?
So in that scenario where the 5,000 increase, there's a 250 on top of that for your hourly work. Is that correct?
Generally correct. We do have a model, and actually, no, I need to backtrack. Generally, we're subtracting that amount from the lump sum. So if there was that $5,000 amount and you had expended $2,500 to obtain that, we would subtract the $2,500 from the $5,000. There is a caveat to that, of course. If a lot of times we will have the wireless carriers reimburse you for our time. That's one of the pieces that we work towards. And in those scenarios, of course, since you would not have been out of pocket, there would be no reduction in the fee.
So how long are these contract times typically? So let's say, you raise it by 5,000, you pocket the 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
What's the life of those contracts going into the future typically on just a bit, your best guess average?
Yeah, typically the wireless carriers are looking at 25 to 30 years, depending on the scenario. Yeah, so it can be sizable over time. Depending on the scenario, sometimes we will limit it to a shorter time frame, depending on your plans. So with a water tank, they have a lifespan. We'll work with facilities guys or public works guys to see if that has a shorter duration, or if there's a goal on the city council's part to have it less than that. We also will build in different pieces for protections for you as far as being able to relocate them for redevelopment and whatnot. But by and large, the typical life cycle has been 20 to 25 years. They are now asking for 50 years in most contracts.
And Mr. Peterson, I think I can be heard there. This is Brian. And I'm going to drop a name. The city of Olympia right now is going through a big renovation of their leases that we've got going. And the good thing is that they had written in an ordinance that says every 5 years, their contracts become up for renewal, which was a godsend for us. Because on their water tanks, then we can start matching the aging of the water tanks to the life of the leases so that they don't get crippled by having a lease on there that they can't deal with or that they'd have to sue their way out of. But in addition to that, they have a 1-year exception carve out that says, if I give you a notice that I'm going to do something with the tank, I only have to give you 1 year to get off, regardless of the term of your agreement. So keeping the cities and municipalities down to a 5-year cycle is really good. And then we have a way to automatically renew it if everybody's happy in the 5-year cycle, as opposed to renegotiating it every 5 years. The wireless carriers are acceptance of that short of a cycle. They wouldn't accept it if it were from some farmer out in the field where they build a 300-foot tower. They don't have the same acceptance. But when it comes to municipalities and city infrastructure, they fully accept shorter life cycles. We also want to make sure that we can get them off at any time that you have structural need, if you will, or painting of the tank or refurbishing of the railing set, which all these things do happen. Just a case in point, we had one tank where they just got through diving into the tank, taking all the photographic evidence inside the tank, and came back and said, oh, by the way, every place that the wireless carrier had welded onto the top of the tank now you can see daylight through it. That kind of stuff is stuff that we know how to deal with. We want to make sure it gets taken care of. And you've got a 1949 tank out there. That
47.
47. Yeah, it's pretty well aged. It's almost as old as I am, but it's pretty well aged.
All right.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jessup has a question.
Thank you all for the presentation, and the packet was helpful as well. It sounds like a lot of the mitigation is things such as like the financial. So you, in essence, is put in layman's terms, you get compensated for finding money, saving money, and negotiating an appropriate market value for these contracts and such. My question is probably towards more what you're talking about, Mr. Gunnison, is the liability piece. So as part of your consulting is working with our public works and so on and so forth, and determining that the cell companies are doing that which is best practice and so on and so forth. You kind of consult with our city people to make sure that that's all going on. But where does that liability shift, and what's the extent of those services, if I will?
Well, every time they make, speaking of the wireless carriers, every time they want to make a modification to the tank, it should require at least an inspection and a structural. And those two go together, and they're different animals. And the inspection is going to be by your tank representative, not theirs. So far right now, every time they want to make a change, they bring in their own tank person that they want to do for the structural, and they give you the structural submitted by them, by their consultant. The first thing we'll do is change that. We'll have you pick out of 3 or 4 water tank guys that we know of. Morrison Hirschfield is actually one of them, but we've got some better tank guys. And that'll be the only people that will do structurals on behalf of the wireless carriers, and they'll pay for them up front, so that it's your person doing the work for your tank, since it's your structure. And that's what we'll accept as the right thing to do. What we see is that all the structurals, including the one from Morrison Hirschfield for, I think it was AT&T is the one I've got up here, they didn't do anything for you for the tank. All they did was a structural analysis for their equipment hanging off of the tank. They never once looked at the tank to whether any of the members of your tank could actually hold their equipment. It was only their equipment on your tank that they engineered for. And that's typical to be overlooked by everybody because it looks official. It's a structural analysis. It's got 20 pages to it, right? It's got all the numbers and the bells and whistles, but when you look at it, they never actually looked at the tank. We did another one for university in Kenmore, Bastyr University, almost the same age tank, and all the carriers were on that tank. And we had Morrison Hershfield do the entire tank analysis. And it came back that it was 110% overloaded. And then we had to go back and fix everything. Where the previous engineering structural analysis, again, only included their attachments, that their attachments would be safe if the tank were safe.
And let me
That's
just follow
perfect.
up
Thank
on,
you.
I was going to follow up on your question. Was it strictly for the loading, or were there other liability pieces you had concerns on?
It was just a general question in terms of you covered a lot of the financial piece. I was just kind of going more towards what you do with the structural piece, or being a voice, or holding companies accountable, and so on and so forth. You covered it, I think,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Let me give you one other piece on that also, though. The contract is critical to that component, and most of the wireless contracts that we see really are favoring the tenant and not favoring the property owner or the municipality. So that is a piece that needs to be looked at in every contract: is, do they indemnify? Do they hold you harmless? Do they have liability for damage that's caused? And what are the teeth that are in there? Meaning, if you find something wrong and they don't want to fix it, or it gets dragged out, do you have the ability to go in and take care of it and bill them for it? So all of those pieces are things that we look at. We have no problem interfacing with the wireless carriers. We generally are the first point of contact, supervising the construction drawings, reviewing them, facilitating the review by your people, so that we make sure that everything's done, at the same time requiring they retain liability for what they're doing on the tank.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Any
Yeah.
other, Councilmember Cleveland?
It sounds like you guys are already a little bit familiar with our tower. Have you done any kind of evaluations on it?
We haven't
have
done
not.
any valuations. We've looked at it from Google Earth. We've got the pictures. We've got a copy of all your agreements. We've done the street stuff. The next thing that we would do is Brett or I, or both of us, will come in and we'll do the photo set, and the photo set, so that we can document and correlate what each carrier is supposed to have versus what they do have, and the mounts. And we'll essentially do our own kind of inspection on it. And we fly drones and the whole works. And that will give us the assessment so that we can match the agreements. And then we can look at your leases and see what opportunities there are. And, Brett kind of cut to the chase a little bit on lease rates are not universal everywhere. I've got some tanks where they're paying as much as $65,000 a year at right now, and other tanks where they're paying less than 20, and some of them are in the exact same city. And when I bring that up to them, they scratch their head like, how did this happen? And it does, it just happens. So we try to fix it. Brett said that we don't work for the wireless carriers. We only work for the ground people, the people that own the leases themselves. But the other thing that we separate ourselves from, which that would be a conflict of interest if we worked for the wireless carriers, is that we don't want to get into the retention of revenues either. We like to be fee-based, and we don't want to have a contention within our group to say, geez, if we only did this, we could give the wireless carriers that, and then we could retain this money for a longer period of time. We don't want that. We don't want that conflict of interest. We just want to be, how do we make it best, for everybody, get in and get out of it. And our typical duration for a water tank with this, with 3 leases, is probably about 2 years of work. And unless you've got additional work there, would probably be set up and pretty well fine after about 2 years of working through all the problems. We have a couple of cities. The city of Sequim, where I live, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm here and close by, but they've been a customer of mine for 20 years, and they constantly have stuff going on, and they've got several sites in this small city that they control. And then we have another city, Mount Vernon, which Brett is very familiar with, probably about 12 to 15 years of work with them. And it's constant. They've got, probably 30 leases and multiple sites all over the place, fire departments, that kind of stuff that we do work for. So they're a big, consistent one. And then we have, forestry areas where Green Diamond Foresters, which is second largest forestry in the state of Washington. Just, 20, 30 sites, we're constantly working on their mountaintops and along the Hood River and, all kinds of places. And then our flagship customer who doesn't necessarily pay us as much as everybody else, but they give us a lot of work, and that's McDonald's, who we work for, the corporate attorneys for McDonald's. And McDonald's, I don't know if you know this, but they own all of their own ground properties, and then the stores are franchised and possibly owned by franchisees, but they own all the cell sites, and we do all their work throughout the country.
Mike, maybe you could help answer this. In reading this, sounds like changing of technology, and with 5G, there is no more equipment. So what exactly would we be looking for? What kind of services?
Well, I mean, there's different types of equipment. It isn't that there isn't really any equipment anymore. It's just that you have to have more of an like shorter range for 5G. So really, the services we're looking for here is just to get a fair shake, because since it's gone from 4G to 5G, a lot of these cell phone and internet providers are coming back and wanting to renegotiate agreements. And it's basically a race to the bottom, if you will, because a lot of cities think they can do that on their own. And we have found that out as we were trying to do it on our own. And we're now at the gateway of, if this works good, keep in mind, we're fundraising for that new water tower on the west side of town. And we should be making sure we get the best bang for the buck on that when we have new real estate too.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so it's a skill set that we certainly don't have, but could benefit from.
Yeah, most people don't, and that's the issue. It's too many cities trying to do that on their lonesome, thinking they're saving money, but it's one of those things where you get what you pay for in a way. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Council members, any other question? Councilmember Williams, anything?
My only question is there like a top amount that we would have to pay out of pocket? Sort of like a not to exceed amount per year over the next 2 years?
We could definitely put something in there because it's an hourly basis and it's an as needed work contract. We can't really put a not to exceed number in total. But what we have done for other customers that have that concern is we put something in there that says we can't exceed X without everyone having a discussion and approving further work. So we can absolutely do something like that.
Yeah, that would make sense, because it's just, especially when we are renegotiating current leases, we may need to kind of spread the work out a little bit to fund it, if you get what I mean.
Completely understand. We've had this question from other municipalities, and generally we don't have a problem with it at all. Once they see how we work, generally it is not a concern any further, but absolutely coming in, we understand the concern.
Thank you.
Councilmember Peterson?
I'm sorry, I guess I don't understand that. So if you go and renegotiate, I don't know how you would ever come up with a future price in total, because if you were to renegotiate $10,000 more per carrier, you don't know that at this point, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So there's this hourly rate, but we could say, let's cap it at 10,000, but if you get 10,000 more per each carrier, that's 40 grand. I mean, you're not going to do that.
So what I was speaking to was a cap on our fees that you would anticipate paying us. That way it's more of a budgetary item.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was referring
Right.
to.
The hourly
Basically,
rate.
city out of pocket
Yeah.
amount.
Okay.
Okay, got it. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much. We appreciate your time and your help in getting us to understand all this.
Absolutely. Feel free to come back with any other questions you may have.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so very much. You have a good night.
You
Okay,
as well.
cheers.
Okay, if there's no further questions or comments for staff, we're gonna move on to the SPAR or SPAR Indigent Defense Services. And Ms. Colwell, you're gonna present on that. Or Mike?
Yeah, so since it actually has to do with the public defender services, it just is better if I do that since Reese the prosecutor.
Yeah. Sounds
So in the first case here for presentation, through excellent work of everyone here, including Ms. Colwell, we actually end up getting a grant for indigent defense services. It will cover essentially compensation for the attorneys, investigation costs, things like that. And this was a newer grant program that came out after that whole Blake decision thing. So city applied for and we were awarded over $41,000, which is awesome. So that's the Cliff's Notes of this grant program. I'm trying to be brief here.
Yeah. Where do my things go? Congratulations on that. That's great. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Good job on that. Yeah.
All right, sorry, I lost my screen here. Okay, so council members, any questions or comments on this? Councilmember Jessup? Councilmember Cleveland?
It's saying the awarded period is basically 2023, 2024. Is this a recurring grant that we're getting? Or is this just this sort of this 2-year thing and that's it?
I think it will be recurring. They have a lot of money right now, and I think they will get even more money. So I can feel pretty confident. But you'll see the draft agreement does indicate that if funding goes away, then the contract ends and we'd have to renegotiate to handle those cases.
And I'll just add, because counterpart in Franklin County has been dealing with this because there's such like a lack of public defenders. There's been a lot of lobbying going on for additional money from the legislature, and it's coming through, and especially the fact that it came through in the smaller session. To me, that's a litmus test that's going to continue.
Looks like there's a typo there on one section here where it says city was applied for and was awarded certain amount. Anyway, it goes from July 1st, 2024 to June 30, 2024. So I presume that's 2025.
Oops. We will fix that. Thanks for
Sorry
action.
about that. Thanks.
Councilmember Espinosa?
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson?
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
I already got my question. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman?
No questions.
And Councilmember Boyle?
No questions.
All right. Did I skip someone? No? Okay. All right. So if there's no further questions or comments, believe it or not, I don't have any. So we'll move on to the next action item. With, am I reading the right thing? Okay, the Conflict Indigent Defense Service Agreement.
Yep. So with this item, a couple of years back, we ended up going to RSQ to get a conflict public defender, because the issue is if we don't have that and the caseloads for the main defender are reached, then the judge can assign whoever. And without naming names, certain people then get assigned. They have a really insane hourly rate and do very fascinating things. I'll just leave it at that. So for the past couple of years, we've had great work with the firm of Pongy and Wernette. The big issue, though, is that through the retirements of Gary Pongy and people moving around there, they can no longer do this. So so we ended up putting this out, and luckily we ended up getting a response for it. So essentially, you'll see in the agenda packet, the draft contract, everything else, but it's basically to assign new conflict public defenders. That way we have the set costs and there's none of these surprises of the judge assigning whoever after the caseload cap on the original attorney's reach, because then it's fully out of like our control if you don't do this conflict public defender issue. So I view this as a cost containment.
Sorry, I was trying to read here. I'm just not sure I had the right thing. Councilmember Cleveland, questions or comments?
No questions?
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams,
All right, so if I'm reading this right, Ponte and Wernet didn't want to do it anymore, but with the new fee schedule, they are willing to?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
that was my question. I was a
Yeah.
bit confused on that.
Yeah, well,
Well, and just to let council know, $700 per case was one of the responses we got. And so then staff negotiated with Ponte Wernet.
yeah,
And we haven't had any complaints
No.
that I'm aware of.
no.
But aren't they retiring? Are they not retiring then?
There's a Ponte Junior.
Yeah, Gary is retired.
His son Brian.
We'll keep doing the work.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Practice for- Is there practice for sale?
No, no.
I mean, the downtown building or
The
They
building.
they moved,
just?
yeah,
okay.
one of their associates moved to Arizona, so, yeah.
Okay, so, but they're here, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and right now it's hard. We need attorneys in Walla Walla, right? Like everything else.
Councilmember Sherman,
I don't have questions. I just noticed there's misspelling of Wernet,
Oh,
which I'm sure Brian would have picked up when he
Yes.
read it, but, in the top paragraph only.
Yep.
Councilmember Boyle,
No questions.
Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. We, let's see, so we're done with our presentation. So thank you all very much for that. Next, let's see, there's no public hearings tonight. So we're gonna move on to action items. Oh, now we have to get moving on these. Okay,
Now we have to.
it
Yeah.
wasn't that easy for us. Okay, so there's 8
Yeah.
action items on the agenda tonight. So first is the SPAR Edit and Defense Service Agreement. And Mike, you're going
Yeah.
to continue presenting?
Yeah, went over it during presentation. It's accepting the grant.
I don't know, we should accept grants. Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments? Councilmember Cleveland? Councilmember Espinosa? Councilmember
no
Peterson?
questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman?
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle?
No questions.
All right, so if there's no further discussion, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the resolution 24-020 authorizing the mayor to execute the SPAR program indigent defense services agreement.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
Second, Councilmember Williams.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? All right, hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The motion is passed. Thank you for that. Next is the amendment to the contract for conflict public defender services.
Yeah, same item I went over with the presentation. It's just awarding the conflict public defender agreement. That way we have set costs, cost containment, and going on our merry way with that. So that's the Cliff's Notes.
Thank you. Councilmember Jessup. Councilmember Cleveland? No. Councilmember Espinosa?
Yeah, just a quick question. Did we look at another firm from the perspective of comparing bids of what they would offer in terms of price? Or is this the only firm that would
So we issued a publicly available RSQ, and there were, I'll just say there were other issues where this is the top one and that would best represent the interests of everyone involved. So.
Councilmember Peterson,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
All right, if there are no questions or other comments, do we have a motion on this resolution?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 24-021, authorizing the mayor to execute the First Amendment to contract for conflict public defender services.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Perfect. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you for working on that. We're now going to move on to the contract amendment for the wastewater treatment plant phase 1 design.
Okay, thank you. So with this item, this really should be called the phase 1A design, because this is really the mechanical equipment part of it, because future meeting we'll have FCS give the presentation, because that's been refined as far as the A or B, which way to go in the future. But regardless, this phase 1A thing has to happen. We finally got approval from Ecology. They reviewed the plans and said it was golden. So we need JUB to be supervising that work out there, and as the contract to have that happen, it benefits us because they are the on-call engineer. They've done the plans. It's the most cost effective since they're the ones that did all the earlier stuff. So it's a slam dunk, and we need to do it because we have to be on the timeline that's in our Ecology financing agreement. This achieves that.
Oops. Okay, so this is something we were expecting to have to address.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments? Councilmember Cleveland? Councilmember Espinosa?
So the 500,000, is that something we were expecting in the contingency?
This was because we put this in a capital facility plan for overarching the wastewater treatment plant work in general. This phase 1A for the mechanical equipment, we were anticipating this, and this is just moving that part forward now that Ecology finally signed off on stuff.
Thank you.
Councilmember Peterson?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman?
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Boyle?
No questions.
All right, if we have no further questions or comments, do we have a motion on this topic?
Councilmember Williams, I will move to authorize the city administrator to sign the authorization for contract amendment for the wastewater treatment plant phase 1 project, increasing the currently authorized amount from $1,876,700 to $2,376,700.
That makes me sweat.
I'll second.
Great, we have a first and a second. Any further questions or comments? All right, hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you, Mike. Let's go on to the Martin Airfield Planning Study contract to JUB Engineers.
Okay, thank you. So with this item, earlier in the year, we ended up getting that Community Economic Revitalization Board grant to do the infrastructure analysis, all planning work out Martin Airfield, figure out what do we need to put out there in concert with the developer, make stuff happen. So we put this thing out to bid via the RSQ process. We ended up getting 2 submittals, JUB, TD&H, and through the grading committee process, JUB was rated as the top proposal. So therefore, we are seeking approval to that end.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Jessup.
I forgot to look at my list of acronyms. Would you remind me RSG process?
Oh,
RSQ.
RSQ. Yeah, it's request for services and qualifications. So,
That's the one we gotta
so
get through
basically
today.
engineering, architecture firms, anyone that's doing design type stuff.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
That's good. Councilmember Cleveland. Councilmember Espinosa.
No questions?
Councilmember Peterson.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman.
No question.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
All right, if we have no questions or further comments from Mike, do we have a motion on this resolution?
Sure, I move to approve resolution number 24-022, awarding Martin Airfield Planning Study contract to JUB Engineers for $124,300.
Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a first and a second. Any further conversation? Seeing or hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, Mike, we're going to continue moving on and now we're going to discuss acceptance of the federal SS4A grant agreement for Safe Streets for All action plan.
Yep. Thank you. So as you all know, last year we applied for this, we received this grant. It's key because in order to get the implementation money, the federal government is so strict, you have to follow their exact rubric for the framework of the plan. Otherwise, even if you have all stuff in the plan, but it looks different, they still won't give you the money. So this plan in essence will essentially put together all plans into their format and rubric. So that way we can go get the money, because this is one of the only grant programs the feds have that doesn't fall on that whole classified streets issue. So it was, in essence, we could get like sidewalks and things funded for our local streets, which is awesome. But we need this plan first. Took forever to get the grant agreement with them, and finally we have it. So it's to get approval so we can move forward.
Okay, I was a bit confused because it was approving a grant to apply for grants. Is
Yeah.
that kind of what it was?
Oh,
But kind of,
yeah.
I was confused about that.
Yeah.
All right, Councilmember Jessup. No, Councilmember Cleveland.
No questions, but thank you for seeking funding for our local streets. It's highly needed.
Councilmember Espinosa.
No questions?
Councilmember Peterson.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman
No questions. Thanks, Mike.
and Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Thank you.
All right, if we have no additional questions or comments, do we have a motion on this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 24-023, accepting federal SS4A planning grant agreement.
Second,
All right, the second was Councilmember Cleveland. He just beat Peterson by a nose.
I can see.
All right, so we have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The motion is passed. Thank you, Mike. Another successful grant application. All right, next, we've got moving right along is acceptance of Transportation Improvement Board Complete Streets Early Opportunity Grant for Northeast Rose Street lighting. Yay.
Yep, so this one, we end up getting the resolution from you all to go apply for this. We did get the full grant amount of funding for this. So this is similar to the lights you see over on 4th Street. So continuing the pedestrian street lamps on the multi-use path on Rose Street from Ash all the way to Cary Court, which is the Walla city limits. So this will pay for that. The item after this directly feeds into this issue because one of the poison pills with this grant, and it's very similar to what we dealt with 4 bikes, is that we have to have this like projects substantially complete by the end of the year. So we have to like scramble and get all of this mixed with Damson and everything else. Because per the Complete Street Early Opportunity Call for projects, they want the majority of money spent out by end of the year, so we have to move.
All right, Councilmember Jessup, Councilmember Cleveland,
no questions. Looking forward to lighting out there.
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions. This is great.
Councilmember Peterson.
So Mike, this covers everything?
So basically there will be a 10% local match and the capital facility plan predicting that. I had the 10% come in from the transportation benefit district, which is why we needed it. So, yeah.
And these light poles will match.
Yeah.
The others that we have.
Yeah.
When you say Matt, are we talking about those little green ones? Or are we talking about
The pedestrian light poles that are like on 4th Street, the 4 Bikes project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the cute ones.
Yeah, the nice
Okay.
looking
So-
ones. Yeah.
So you're on I'm sorry, you're on a race here.
Yes.
These light poles have to be built yet or forged?
So
or-
we have to have them in our possession. So we're probably gonna have to do what we did with 4 Bikes, which for 4 Bikes, we end up having to order a ton of lights ahead of time to get in under the billing deadline.
Yeah.
Cause then we spent the money and we're good to go. So we're gonna have to get that going. And then the next issue that'll be coming up, the next agenda bill is just for PBS to retouch the plans and stuff. Cause keep in mind, when we were looking at doing the lights, I mean, that was already going back like 7 years ago. So stuff changes. So it needs to be looked at.
Thanks.
Councilmember Williams?
Is this by the end of the year? Is that the end of the calendar year or the fiscal year?
Calendar year.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman?
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle?
No questions.
Where are we gonna store all these lights?
Well, like what we did last time, the yard.
Just stick them in the backyards and cover them with a
Public
tarp?
Works yard. Yeah.
All the
Okay,
city council members are gonna have to put some in their garage.
Yeah.
there you go. All right, any further questions, comments? All right, do we have a motion on this resolution?
I'll motion to adopt resolution number 24-024, which accepts State of Washington Transportation Improvement Board Complete Streets Grant Contract for Northeast Rose Street pedestrian lighting, Northeast Ash Avenue to Northeast Cary Court.
Second, Peterson.
We have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? All right, hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, the motion is passed. Mike, you got us all giddy with these cute Latin posts. So, no, it's. Right. No, it's really great. I'm looking forward to seeing that all lit up. It'll look really, really attractive. So thank you. All right. Are they going to be, I should have asked a question, just technical question. Will they be starting before the end of the year?
Well, yeah, because they're also doing the Damson project and the rechannelization. So my guess is there'll probably be an addendum to some of that. So you'll be seeing stuff go on this year.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the amendment 1 for the Damson and Rose Street project design and construction administration.
Okay, so I foreshadowed this at the earlier agenda, Bill. So Jeremy, when I introduced Jeremy, he's one of the new PBS engineers. He wanted to see how our council meetings go. So he's here.
They're very stressful, as you can tell.
Welcome.
Yeah. Yep. So with this, when we were putting together the Damson project and rechannelization, we didn't know if this was going to go or not. So all that cost wasn't really thrown in there. Now we have the grant. Now we're going. Now we need to scramble with all the related things to engineering and getting this going. So that's what this covers. So we can actually get the lights in.
There's a second poison pill.
Yeah.
All right, Councilmember Jessup.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to make the connection. So this is just now adding the fee that we are anticipating. If we got the grant, we got the grant. So now we're adding the fee that we were anticipating needing anyway.
We were anticipating it, however, it wasn't like when we bid out when we awarded the engineering for Dampsing and Rose Street, we didn't throw in engineering for the lights on Rose Street because we
Yeah.
didn't know for sure
Yeah.
we're getting it.
So I guess, I'm sorry, I'll
Yeah.
be more direct. This additional cost is covered.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me, I'll be more direct. This additional cost is covered.
Yeah,
Got it.
yes.
Sorry, it's us. Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions?
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
Questions.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No question.
All right, if we don't have any questions or comments, do we have a motion? It's a long one, so whoever's gonna pick it.
I'll move to authorize city administrator to sign amendment number 1 with PBS Engineering and Environmental Incorporated, increasing the cost of professional services by $283,095.50 for the Northeast Damson Avenue and Northeast Rose rechannelization project to include additional design services as well as construction administration services.
Very nice. All right. Councilmember Boyle did a second. Any further discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The motion is passed. We're gonna
Good
put you to
job,
work
Jeremy.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep, it will. Thank you so much. All right, the last action item is park plan update.
Yeah, so park plan updates. So we end up getting a proposal from JUB for this as our on-call engineering also, because they also play the supporting role the last time the park plan was done 6 or so years ago. Why we're doing this is that park plans are on a different replacement schedule from comprehensive plans. Makes no sense, but that's how the state does it. So comprehensive plans have to be re-updated every 8 years. Believe it or not, the park plans, in order to qualify for all of our park grants, have to be done every 6 years. Otherwise, you're disqualified from all the park grant money. Thus, we need to get going on this. This wasn't the budget because we knew this was going to have to happen. There is quite a bit of additional work in here compared to the last plan, because the last plan was more so updating our current parks. And, Lions Park's going in now. Veterans Park will be going in soon. We did Kiwanis Park. The big thing with this is going to be like, what does getting Autumn Meadows and Perseverance up to snuff? Also, with the newer subdivisions, they'll be going in subsequent years. So the Lakeside development across from the high school, and then even the Martin Airfield. I mean, the airfield's going to stay in airfield, but stuff behind it will be residential. What do those parks look like? And we want to come in early on this to avoid, like, frankly, what happened in the neighborhood where I lived in. We want to make sure it's a quality park that has a lot of different amenities for residents. So there's a lot of heavy lifting, because this plan is going to be more so for established, I would say, generational parks in those two newer developments.
All right, Councilmember Jessup, Councilmember Cleveland, Councilmember Espinosa,
Questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
Okay, I have a quick question. On the agreement form,
Yeah.
where it says regarding master engineering services agreement between the City of College Place client and JUB Engineers Incorporated, or JUB, dated October 13th, 2020.
I did not catch that. Oh, wait, I know what that's talking about. So this is on our on-call agreement. So from 3.5 years ago, we did the whole competitive RSQ process where JUB was awarded as our on-call engineer and planning consultant. This is like a sub agreement under that agreement. It allows us to move quicker. Because keep in mind, this whole plan, we have to get this thing done, updated, approved by Park Board. You all have all public outreach, and then get it to Recreation Conservation Office so they could approve it all by the end of the year. So we gotta get going on
Okay, so
this.
it's an addition to the
Yeah.
existing. Okay. Got it. Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
This one's easier. I'll make a motion to approve the JUB engineers agreement for $99,300.
Is there,
Second Peterson.
right, Peterson did a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. You can get moving on that then, Mike. All right, no informational reports, no administrative reports, no executive session. So we're down to closing items. Is there any other business for good of the order? Councilmember Jessup?
Real quick question, and this last item obviously is going to cover this in the future, but just for planning purposes and stuff like that, some homeschool groups and so on and so forth, when is it that you think we're not going to be able to use Lions Park anymore, or the public, or open to the public to use?
I mean, we'll be posting that. I know we're gonna be having meetings with Nelson Group here soon. I believe it's probably gonna get fenced off fully probably within the next like week or two, because they really want to get going on it. So I'm gonna have a date for you probably by early next week, because they're just trying to mobilize all their stuff out here because it's a lot of work. So
Yeah, it's understood. Thanks. I'll pass it along.
yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, do we have a motion to conclude?
So move, Councilmember Williams.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Peterson did a second. If there's no objections, then the meeting is concluded at 8:01 PM. Thank
Good
you,
night, everybody.
everyone.